Welcome back to tonight's meeting. Thank you, all of you here in the audience, for your indulgence with us as we moved in and out of the room. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVerde,
DeVerde here.
Secretary Hatcher,
Here.
Trustee Fleming,
Here.
Trustee Landau,
Here.
Trustee McKnight-Warren.
Here.
Thank you. Quorum is present. We have an agenda in front of us. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And support? Any discussion? All in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The agenda stands approved. Thank you. Approval of the minutes, tab A in our packets. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the October 18, 2022 monthly meeting as submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
We have
Whatever she
motion
said.
and support. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. Thank you. Citizen participation, verbal communications. On behalf of the WCC Education Association, David Wooten is with us. David, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I am not Julie Kissel. David Wooten from the Biology Department, a longtime member of the WCCEA board and a gen ed rep. I'm here to stand in for Julie tonight.
Thank you.
So November 2022, this month has been a series of ups and downs. We've had some unfortunate interruptions to on-campus given the recent sewage leakage. So obviously this happens. We hope that the issue's been resolved and that any contamination or negative effects that might have influenced the ponds and the natural areas, we ask that those are being considered and of course prioritized if needs be.
If you care to stick around this evening, we'll be going into that in some depth.
Oh, excellent.
Please proceed.
Excellent. We also know that the first and third floor of the Crane Science Building are now undergoing construction. That's already started and will continue into the winter semester. And so, of course, the hope is that any disturbances during primary teaching times will be minimal and that any teaching display materials or artwork that's been removed will be replaced and conserved with faculty input when the time's appropriate. With the local, state, and midterm elections having concluded, it seems very clear that there's a call and an expectation for continued conversations and collaboration and transparency regarding many pressing issues, from the environments to budgets to censorship and even to healthcare. For the membership, they face an ever-present stress right now with public health issues, changing student needs, and staffing issues, all while balancing these various modalities that we have to teach in, and that obviously can be very difficult and trying. So as it is week 12 of the semester, we are looking forward to a little bit of a brief respite with the Thanksgiving recess coming up. The WCCEA is thankful for some things as well regarding grievances. The WCCEA has settled the grievance that was set for arbitration on November the 21st. In most settlements, both parties are really 100% pleased with that outcome. This, of course, was the case in this grievance, but with the help of President Belanca, progress was made. This is good news. Also, after years and years of trying to solve a problem related to large lecture inconsistencies, VPI Vega and the WCCEA have agreed upon a letter of agreement to codify a process that is clear and more equitable for all parties involved. And I can personally say, as a faculty member who was impacted by these inconsistencies related to large lecture, I'm very, very pleased this has been rectified. I have taught triple sections here for the human anatomy and physiology course and our biology major courses. For over 10 years, I have taught triple sections with absolutely no compensation. And so I am very, very pleased that this has been rectified and resolved. It's overdue. It's the correct course of action for our faculty who work really, really hard to give our students what they need. So thank you for that. Julie will be back next month. So she'll be back here, but apparently I get to put in my words of wisdom. She let me end with my quote. And so who else besides Charles Darwin that said, "It is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one that is most responsive to change." And I think that's a lesson for all of us, yes? So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vanessa, are there any public comments?
No,
Did we have any written comments?
there was one received.
All right, thank you. I have in my hand here this tome of annual student and financial aid profile, and I'd like to ask Provost Blakey to come forward and present that report.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
So tonight we're going to be covering the annual profile for 2021-22, the fall profile, and the financial aid profile for 21-22 as well. I'll be presenting as well as Vice President of Student Services, Clarence Jennings, Jr. So this I see as 21-22 as kind of the coming out of COVID year. We had certainly more sections scheduled back on campus, not quite full force yet, but and we also continued our virtual classes as we found that those were really popular during COVID, and we've continued to have those courses. So for the enrollment profiles, all this data is reported to the state. Our fall enrollment is based on the official federal count date of October 15th. For the annual data, we include everything through the end of the semester, and you have enclosed the infographic for easy reference. So for the 21-22 academic year, we had 19,360 students enrolled in credit classes. This is the unduplicated head count for fall 21, winter 22, and summer 22. So if a student was registered in both, 2 semesters, fall and winter, they're only counted once in the profile. So 19,360 is the unduplicated students that we served in credit classes last year. That's up 4% over the prior academic year. We had 7,767 new students, and that's an increase of 193 or 3% of students over the prior academic year. So annually, our minority student enrollment was at 36.4%. That compares to 30.6% minority composition for the county. So that's based, we are able to update with the 2020 census this year. And that's an increase from 35% minority enrollment in 2021. Our male students, which comprised 47% of the population last year, increased by 707. And our female students, which comprised 53% of our population, decreased by 346 over the prior academic year. You can see 5 years ago our ratio was slightly switched at 52% male and 48% female. If we look at the new students who came in last year and the educational level that they're coming in with, we had 751 that were college graduates. That was down 237 from the prior year. We had almost 3,600 students transfer from 4-year colleges or 2-year colleges and universities. That was up 4%, 142 students. 10% of our new students are currently enrolled in high school, and 57% of our students, of our new students, have prior college. They're either college graduates or are transferring in with credits. You can see from, if we look at the age bands that we have annually over the last year, if you remember last year, of course you remember last year,
Yeah.
we talked about this, all the age bands decreased. This year you see that we have an increase in our our students who are age 18 to 20, those students increased by 3%, and we also increased in our students that are aged 35 to 44. That group increased by 26%, I think primarily due to the Reconnect grant, which allows for students who are 25 and older to access our college classes. If we look at our non-credit enrollment, those enrollments were 6,688. That was a decrease of 14% over the prior academic year. Courses were offered in 35 subject areas. 5 areas that are listed at the bottom accounted for 63% of the non-credit enrollments. If we look at the students by course delivery, and again, this is counting students once. So for students, we had 14.7% of our students, a little over 2,800, took face-to-face classes only last year. We had another 30% that took a combination of face-to-face and online. And when we talk about online, we're including our distance learning and our virtual classes. And then students who are taking DL or virtual only was 55% of the student body from last year. Our annual college awards, and we continue to focus on completion. Our total awards last year was 3,672. Our certificates were over 2,100, and those were up 20%, up 361, 20% over the prior academic year. Our associate degrees were near 1,500. Those were up 145 over the last year, and that was 11% increase. Again, these are awards posted through August. So we have post awards 4 times a year, at the end of fall, at the end of winter, and 2 times in the summer in June and August. Our senior certificates, last year we were down to 3 because we had loss of access to our clinical sites. That's been a very popular certificate. And we rebounded this year with 115 certified nursing assistant certificates. If you look at kind of the breakdown of some of these awards, you can see we continue to have a strength in our Michigan Transfer Agreement, our MTA certificate. Those were up 21% over the prior academic year, over 1,300. Our general studies, which again is a fairly new degree for us, but you see is really strong in terms of the number of students achieving that degree. It's went from 111 to 194, a 75% increase. Our computer system and networking also had a big increase, 92%. Our HVAC residential program had over 100% increase in the number of awards. Our medical billing and coding also strengthened, and our still processing. So the student infographic sheet that you have within your program, the first 2 columns on both sides covers the annual facts for the 21-22 academic year, and the right column on both sides of the sheet cover fall 22 facts. Now I'm going to hand it over to Vice President of Student Services, Clarence Jennings, to cover the financial aid profile.
Thank you, Provost Blakey. So for our 2021-22 financial aid profile, I will bring it to you this evening. I want to first start out to say that for 21-22, we were able to administer $31 million in aid to students here at Washtenaw Community College. That was a 10.4% increase over 2021, about $3 million additional aid that was awarded to students. When we look at how many students received aid in 21-22, 6,249 students received some type of financial aid. That's in comparison to 6,023 students in 2021. 36.1% of our annual credit students received some form of financial aid. That's a 2% increase over 2021. As we look at our fall 21 term, 46% of our students received aid versus 37.5% in fall of 20, 45.2% for winter of 22, and 27.6% of students received aid in the summer of 2022. So what's behind the increase? So we know that there's been a big investment by the state of Michigan in our community college students. Our financial aid for students who are receiving any kind of state aid increased by almost 80%. In 2021, we received about $3.7 million from the state of Michigan to support students. In 2020, that was $2 million, so there's an increase of $1.6 million for students here at Washtenaw Community College. We saw this primarily in the growth of our Michigan Reconnect students. In 2021, we had 214 students, but in 2021-22, we had 812 students, almost a gain of 600 students in our Michigan Reconnect program. Of the funding that students receive, approximately $11.2 million of their financial aid was used to pay tuition and fees. An additional $669,000 was used to purchase books and supplies at the WCC bookstore. I will say this, with our Z degree and our initiatives around OERs, we've been able to keep the cost of books down for students. So that's a really good thing we're doing here. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Would you like Would you explain what the Z degree is,
Oh,
please?
sorry, the Z degree. That is a degree that allows a student to have no expenses related to textbooks. So it's completely, I shouldn't say free, but the textbooks are included in the cost of the class. So it's a Z free degree for the student.
Trustee DeVarty?
So the Reconnect program, where we've seen all that growth,
Mhm.
is that a continuing program that we'll see continuing going forward?
Yes, we anticipate the program going and growing, matter of fact. So it is in state law, so it's just a matter of ensuring that the state is funding it, so.
And we had Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist on campus a couple of months ago to help us celebrate that.
Absolutely.
And is that a program that we are actively marketing and trying to get new people in?
Absolutely. It is a opportunity for us to bring adult students, ages 25 years of age or older, back to campus to get their skills, get their skills up. And it aligns with the state's mission of increasing graduates by 2030.
Thank you.
Trustee Hatcher?
Do we track them at all? Do we know what skills they came in with and what skills they needed?
We do. So as part of the onboarding process, of course, they will take our AccuPlacer examinations. And then they meet with an advisor to find out where they would like to go. Again, we recognize that many students came back to us having had some experience.
Sure.
And what they did when they were 19 or 20 looks different when they're 35. So ensuring that they know about the Z degree, know about these programs that can lead to a quick certificate if that's what they're looking for, or trying to get into our associate degree programs.
Will we have some retention and completion data
We
at
do.
some point?
We do. So each semester we're required to provide the state of Michigan information on our students, Michigan Reconnect and Futures. Right now, we're looking at about 70% of those students are being retained.
Uh-huh.
Program just started in 2021, so we
Right.
only had a few graduates, but we're expecting a lot more graduates from May.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
You're very
Will
welcome.
we get that data at some point? Thank you.
Please proceed.
All right, no problem. So where did the aid come from? So about 24 million, 80% of our aid to students comes from the federal government, 3.7 from the state. Washtenaw Community College provides about $800,000 in supports of grants and scholarships for students, and about $1.8 million external. That also includes the WCC Foundation scholarships and external. $16.4 million is in grants to students, along with $2.6 million in scholarships. Students received or administered $12 million in loans, and for 21-22, about $93,000 in work study. As we look at federal aid, the Pell Grants make up about $12 million to students. Student loans, another $12 million. Small number of about 43,000 for PLUS loans for students. SEOG grants for 21-22, about $488,000. We have a grant for students who are coming out of the foster care, our Fostering Futures program, and also our CTE programs, about $93,000, and again, work study about $94,000. Because of the national emergency COVID, Department of Ed allowed our school to move money that would have been used for students with work study positions into SEOG. So it allowed us to move about $488,000 from work study to SEOG for 557 students, got an additional award for that. As we look at the state aid, again, about $3.7 million coming from the state. Futures for Frontliners, 1.2, almost 1.3 million. Michigan Reconnect, 1.2 million, and the tuition incentive program, about $1 million. So the investment in our students by the state of Michigan is tremendous. Again, this really is showing how much more funding the state has given us over the last year in all the programs. Most of the programs has additional support from the state of Michigan. As we look at WCC, again, we provide our presidential and Procaccini scholarships, which are full tuition and book scholarships for each one of our public high schools here in Washtenaw County. It's renewable if the student meets the academic performance requirements. We also provide 50 scholarships that are worth $3,000 a year for graduates from any high school or homeschool student. So we provide that additional funding for those students as well. Over the course of 2022, 606 students received over $727,000 directly from WCC. This included 153 high school students who received almost $500,000. 75,000 or so was provided for students who needed books, and we increased the total number of students who received WCC scholarships by 157 students. This does not include our WCC Foundation, which I'll talk about a little later. We have additional funds that are administered through financial aid. Our emeritus funding was $429,000. Of that, $154,000 went to credit, students who are taking credit-bearing courses. Students who actually live or own property in the district, $105,000, and our partner high schools, $13,000. So as we look at our external sources, our biggest external funding is from the WCC Foundation. We're excited about what they do for students. For the year 21-22, the foundation provided about $1.4 million in scholarships to our students, and other scholarships, about $470,000, other external scholarships. Of that amount, about $255,000 is going to our STEM students, our STEM scholars. So we're very excited about that. As we look at the foundation, 1,257 students received that $1.4 million. That's an increase of 1.14 over 2021. And as we look over the last 5 years, the foundation scholarships have increased about 50%, over 50%. Students are using those funds to fund for tuition, books, childcare, other educational expenses so they can stay enrolled here at Washtenaw Community College. The WCC Foundation also oversees our emergency fund. It allows students who are having a financial crisis to apply for aid, emergency fund. In 2021-22, we had 130 students receive over $30,000. Since the inception, $141,000 have been awarded to students, 570 students, to assist in things around food, transportation costs, gas cards, utilities, and during the pandemic, really helping with laptops, external hard drives, internet services if they need it. And it is a collaboration because what the emergency fund, they can't supply all the students' needs. We actually refer those students to our own other campus resources and outside agencies as well. If you look at the financial aid infographic, the left side covers what was 2021 facts, and the right column is our fall 2022 financial aid. As I mentioned earlier, the state of Michigan has been responsible for the large growth of our students. The state has a goal of having 60% of the students earning a skill or an associate degree or degree by 2030. The two major programs are the Michigan Reconnect and the Futures for Frontliners programs. Now, I'll just give a little background on that. So the Futures for Frontliners program is the last dollar scholarship, meaning that after all other aid is applied to the student's account, if they have any additional needs, this funding can be applied to those students. It is only for students who were considered essential during the months of April 1st, 2020 through June 30th of 2020. Let's see, I'm sorry. For 21-22, we had 733 students enrolled. Their tuition and fees brought in $1.3 million to the college. We had an additional 335 students who the state classifies them as eligible because they have no unmet need. They do not receive a reimbursement on their tuition. That's important because if their financial aid situation changes, because they're eligible, they could receive that funding. So that's important that they're still eligible. We will not be enrolling any additional Futures for Frontliner students. They had until fall of last year to be a part of the Future for Frontliners program. So we will continue to work with those students to get them to completion of associate or certificate here. The other big program is the Michigan Reconnect. Again, it's a last dollar scholarship, but it's for Michigan students who are age of 25 years of older, who do not have an associate or certificate or a bachelor's degree. In 21-22, we went, our numbers are 812 students with tuition and fees received of $1.3 million. In 2020-21, we received about $1.1 million with about 600 students. We have additional 619 students. Again, these are eligible students, but because they have no additional, have other funding streams, they're not receiving a scholarship. But again, if their financial aid changes, they will be eligible. We are considering this a growth area for the college. We have so many more adult students who need to come back and either attain new skills or upgrade the skills that they have. So we're looking for that as a growth area for the college as well. As a recipient of those funding, the state of Michigan requires us to do a few things. That we are actually meeting with the students on a weekly basis, making sure that they are following through on the things they need to get enrolled here at the college. Our financial aid staff reaches out to the students to make sure that they understand they are eligible for any additional funding. Because the funding only covers tuition and fees, we have been able to provide additional book scholarships for students in the Futures for Frontliners and Michigan Reconnect programs. There is also a success coach that we have that's dedicated to those students, again, ensuring that they know about the services that we provide for students. Finally, the state of Michigan, they have a Michigan Reconnect navigator. That person helps us by advocating, or helping, I guess, navigating and advocating for the student to finish their process of becoming an enrolled student here at Washtenaw Community College. The chairman, Milliken, you mentioned the Lieutenant Governor was here. And he was here earlier this summer to talk about the Michigan Reconnect and Futures wraparound grants.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. And this grant is only for those students who are going into their second semester or beyond, and it allowed those students to get up to $550 to support books, transportation to campus, internet access, or childcare. We are happy to announce that we received $377,000 to support our students in the wraparound grants. As of fall, so this began fall of 2022, we have had 602 students receive almost $300,000 to assist with books and supplies. Child care. So in 2021-22, we awarded about $41,000 in aid for child care. As you know, the board approved $200,000 to support students who had child care needs. 2022-23, we've already used $51,000 just in this one semester. So as our students are returning to campus, the need is there. We're meeting those needs for students. So we're excited that the board is continuing to support our students. In addition, this was the last year of our CARES grants, and there was a bunch of different grants rolled into one, which we'll talk about as the CARE grant. But over the course of the 3 years, students received over $17 million from the federal government. That included about $8 million in 2021-22 awarded to about 3,900 students. Finally, a couple more slides. The state of Michigan is investing in students. So there's a new scholarship for the high school graduating class of 2023 that will provide those students up to $2,750 to attend, we'll say, Washtenaw Community College. They can use that for an additional 3 years. That, if a student is able to get their full award, it takes care of about 24 credit hours here at Washtenaw Community College. So essentially, those students who qualify for that would be able to go attend here for free. There are a few things that students have to do. They have to have a expected EFC, expected family contribution of $25,000 or less. The state has said that about 65 to 70% of the students who are graduating next year would qualify for it. They have to be a resident of the state of Michigan for at least a year, graduate from a Michigan high school beginning in June of 23 and beyond. they must be a full-time student. So this is an award that's granted to students who are pursuing education at full-time. They have until 15 months to use the funding. So the state has realized that students are taking a little bit of break after they graduate from high school, and they're allowing those students to use those funds within those 15 months. If they're a dual enrolled student currently, they still are eligible for the funding. Final thing, they have to maintain satisfactory academic progress, and if they do, the scholarship is renewable for the students for up to 3 years. I want to personally thank each and every one of our financial aid staff. They put in a lot of work administering $31 million to students, along with the CARES grants that they had to do as well. This does give me an opportunity to welcome and introduce to you the board. Our newest executive director of financial aid is Andrew Mungia, who is our new executive director. He's coming from Monroe Community College. Prior to that, he was at the University of Michigan Dearborn and the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and we are delighted he is excited to work with us. So, I will turn it back over to Provost Blakey.
Thank you, Clarence. So now we'll just touch a little bit on fall 2022. The official count date, as I mentioned earlier, was October 15th. We had 10,746 students enrolled. That's down about 1.7% from fall of 21. And we had over 88,619 credits, and that's down about 1.4% from the prior fall semester. Our new students are 3,052, so we increased 257 new students over fall of 21, and that's a 9% increase in new students. Our continuing students declined, which is expected as we continue focusing on students graduating. They declined by 5% over the last fall semester. So if we look at our full-time status and average credits, our full-time students increased from 25% to 26% from last fall to this fall. Our average credit load of our degree-seeking students remained at 8.7 credits. And our average credit load of our non-degree seeking students increased from 6 to 7 credits for the semester. Our degree seeking students is at 74.8%. Our students with intent to transfer is at almost at 58%. That change, we had a drop in our degree seeking students, and that's accountable because the federal and state reporting requirements now do not allow us to, or any school, to count dual enrolled students as degree seeking. I know this is a little counterintuitive, especially for our middle college students that have to complete a degree or certificate as part of the graduation requirements, but the feds do not allow that, so that's accounted for in that drop of that degree seeking student group. For our age and minority composition, our average age for this fall is 26.2. That's dropped a little bit from last fall, where it was 26.6. Our minority composition is at 36.3%. And again, that's increased from fall 2021, where it was at 34%. So for fall 2022, our dually enrolled students remained level at 1,157. Our top 5 feeder high schools for all of our new students are listed there as Pioneer, Huron, Brighton, Saline, and Dexter. And again, when we look at our feeder calculation, we're looking at our dual enrolled as well as our all high school graduates, no matter what year they graduated. If we look at our dual enrollment partners, you can see that WTMC is still on the top of the list, followed by Dexter and Pinckney. It's interesting to note that last fall, WTMC, the proportion that they represented of our dual enrolled students was at 42%. And this fall, as we continue to increase our dual enrollment partners, their proportion dropped to 37%.
We have a question.
I don't know why I'm asking this, but I'm going to ask it. Why is it that we're still not able to have any participation from Pioneer High School? Is it the principal? I see Huron on here, but what about Pioneer?
It's there.
I didn't see it.
It's in our book, page 67.
So, so Ann Arbor,
That's
so
on
these
the
are
dual
just our
enrolled.
dual enrolled students. So.
That's what I'm talking about, the dual enrolled students.
Yep, so, some schools support it more than others. You know, we have some students who are dual enrolled, but they just didn't make, this is the top of the list for our dual enrollment partners.
Okay.
So, Pioneer's on the list, they just don't have, you know, I just included kind of the top group, so they have some, they just don't have, they have less than 22, which is the bottom.
Trustee Hatcher, that's in what page in the printout?
No, I was looking at the wrong page, sorry.
Yeah.
But it's in here somewhere.
But some of the high schools, I mean, they're focusing more on, you know, AP courses, they're also having the IB curriculum, International Baccalaureate curriculum, and, but, so it really depends on the high school.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Page
welcome.
68.
So if it-
68.
Thanks.
If we look at our course modes for fall, you see our face-to-face only students, it is over 3,200, it's 30%. So if you just remember what we did for annually, that was running at 14% of the student body for the last academic year was face-to-face only, and that now is at 30% for our fall classes. You can see the gender and the age group, it's 42% are age 20 and below. 65% of those students are in district. For students who are taking a combination of some face-to-face and some DL, which is on the far right, that's 26% of the student body for fall. Again, you see that's a 55% female, and 58% of those students are in district. And if you look in the middle, the students who are taking online and virtual, which would be our asynchronous and our synchronous DL courses, that's 44% at this point, and 45% of those students are in district. So some of our fall strategies were, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're continuing our virtual classes. Those have been very popular for evening offerings. We're continuing to expand our DL, our online courses. We've got more accelerated options for some of our certificate programs. We're continuing our Smart Peers, which allows the student to take 2 classes at a time. They can take 2 classes in the first 7.5, 2 classes in the second 7.5. Be focusing on 2 classes, but be a complete full-time student load by the end of the semester. We have assigned advisors who are doing outreach via TargetX with our emails, texting, phone calls. And we are spending a lot of recruitment time with our Reconnect students. In fact, we have an evening event right now for Campus Explore for our focusing on adult students. We have our navigator from the state that's here, and a lot of all of our service areas talking about all the services that we provide to our students. That's happening as we speak. We also now have full accessible, where all the high schools are now fully accessible. That was not the case during COVID. And again, we are continuing to, through the state, get our Reconnect students connected with us. A big thank you to all our faculty and staff for supporting the initiatives that we have for enrollment. Special thanks to Kathy Curry. Again, this is the second year that we are able to produce the profiles using our new Argos reporting tool. Kudos to Patrick and Cammie, who are still fielding calls when I find something that I don't like, and they're very responsive. Julie Morrison and Shane Redmond from the IR team in terms of kind of reviewing the data. And Laura Turner and Rich Resler for the beautiful infographics and for actually producing the books. Thank you.
Trustee Landau.
Yeah, question. You note that the head count was down 1.7% and credit hours were down 1.4%. I was just wondering how that compares to our sister institutions across the state.
It compares favorably. So a lot of the schools, I didn't put that slide in here, but a lot of schools had much more deeper cuts or deeper reductions than we had.
How much more, what, do you know what average across the, I mean, obviously across the state probably doesn't make much sense, but in terms
The
of.
community colleges took a big hit this
Okay.
year. So I think a lot of times those averages were like 7 to 8%.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we feel
Okay.
fortunate. I mean, we
Kudos
don't
to
like
you.
being down at all, but we feel fortunate.
Kudos to you guys for keeping it up. Thanks.
Trustee Hatcher.
On page 40 of the student profile book, it's WID and PID, and I don't know what those are.
WID and PID is a code that a student can have. WID is work in district for students who work at least 4 months and
Okay.
they've worked 30 hours or more a week for the 4 months prior to the start of a semester. They are eligible if they're an out-district or out-of-state or international student they're eligible to be assessed in-district tuition. So that scholarship that Clarence mentioned earlier, that actually pays the difference between the out-of-district tuition and the in-district. And PID is property in district. So you sometimes have, international students who might actually own a house. So if you own a house and you pay property taxes and you demonstrate that, then that also, even if your residency status is not in district, that allows you to pay in-district tuition rates because you own property in the county.
Good, and you refer to a lot of the sort of areas, departments as colleges. Do we think of them as colleges now?
That's an interesting comment. No, so it's a way that we're coding them in Banner. So we kind of had to raise up, we were looking at, actually we're looking at faculty load, ways we could do faculty load. Right now we do that all as a homegrown system.
Yeah.
And so, it's probably too much in the weeds, but when we were looking at ways to do that using baseline Banner, we had to, in order to be able to figure out the payment, we actually had to raise things, what we call divisions, which aren't really a code in Banner,
Right. Oh,
to
I
the
see.
college level.
Okay, so it's a banner issue.
It's a Banner issue, and so, but when we run all those reports, since we're running out of Banner, so even though we still in-house call them divisions,
Okay.
but
Alright.
for reporting, they're at the college level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I
Thank
just
you.
want to say you did a good job.
Yeah.
Very good
Yeah.
report.
Very thorough.
Thank
Both
you.
of you.
Thank you. Thank you, VP Jennings. Nice report. Our agenda next takes us to some reports. Monthly reports. Personnel recommendations. It's an action item. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the personnel recommendations as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and support. Is there any discussion? Trustee Hatcher.
Last month, there was
Microphone.
last month there was a person who was a new person, Mr. Horn, who was listed as a replacement. But the month before, but in the previous things, there was no position for him. So it really is a new position. I want it counted as a new position rather than a replacement. Does that make sense to anybody?
No.
Well, last month he was listed as the Learning Commons Lab Associate, and that was listed as a replacement. And it was not a position that was listed in the previous year. So it wasn't a replacement, it was a new position. And I'd just like to keep those straight, so we know how many new positions we're getting and how many replacement positions we're getting.
I remember reading it, but I don't remember.
Yeah. I have a question about the coordinator of instructional support. Is that for humanities and social science?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. The the senior research assistant, that's a new position title, but is that what used to be called the director or the research associate?
That's the replacement for Bill Everett.
Okay, that'll help. I guess,
Are we good?
okay, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion in front of us. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Tab C are the financial reports. And we'll ask VP Barnes to share with us what he's seeing here, please.
Yes, good evening. Just gonna scroll to the financials. There we go. So I covered this last month as well, but briefly, touching on the tuition and fees. Fall tuition, we're up by over $500,000. As Vice President Blakey mentioned, we are down in credit hours 1.4% versus the prior year. However, we had budgeted to be down more than 5%. So we are beating the budget, although down from the prior year. For winter tuition, we're on track to meet our budget so far. Still early days, but obviously doing pretty well so far. And for student fees, substantially above budget again. Enrollment is higher again than budgeted. We're doing better there. We also are particularly conservative when we budget things like contact hour fees because we don't budget at a class level. So we're a little bit conservative there, and we are beating that as well. So the 1.2 million that you see favorable for total tuition and fees, assuming that we meet our budget for winter and spring, that should carry forward for the whole year. In terms of local property taxes, you'll see a variance of about 1.1 million so far this year. Some of that may be timing, but you may recall we budgeted for a 3.3% increase in property taxes. That increase actually came in at 5.3%. So this should stick around $1 million for the year, is what we expect to be favorable on property taxes. For state appropriations, generally for state appropriations per se, we are on track. We're going to hit the budget for that number. There's a component of that called the Local Community Stabilization Authority, which is the personal property tax, that we're expecting to be quite favorable. We had expected, along with many other community colleges, that that tax was going to phase out or sunset, and we learned that that is not in fact sunsetting. So we're expecting that to be up. I would say at least, it's difficult to say, but I would say at least $500,000 from what I know right now.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the other big item I'll cover here is investment income. While there are a lot of negatives associated with higher interest rates, the one silver lining is higher interest earnings. So you can see that our earnings on our investment portfolio have tripled versus the budget. We're at $450,000 so far this year versus $167,000 in the budget. So in total there you can see total revenues up 2.8 million, not completely solid yet, but on a very good track. In terms of our expenditures, you'll see here as well that each of these line items are favorable so far. Again, you've heard this explanation pretty much every month. The vacancies continue to be somewhat high. We're at 42 vacancies versus a budgeted vacancy of 25, which is reflected here. We've also not seen yet, without the return to campus, we had expected some of the expenses to increase more rapidly, and they have not materialized yet. So that's another reason we may be seeing some favorability, but again, this is only 33% through the year. But judging where we are, 3.2 million favorable so far this year. Again, some of that could be timing, because we're still only a third of the way through the year. Those are pretty much the highlights. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Trustee Hatcher.
On the bottom of the financial narrative, under operating transfers, it says the full year budgeted allocations. It's a deferred maintenance. Does full year mean January to December, or does it mean
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the fiscal year, we make all the transfers to the appropriate funds.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees receive the financial reports for October 2022 as follows: General Fund, Capital Fund, and Combined Schedule of Investments, all funds.
So moved.
And
Support.
Is there any further discussion? And we get to vote on this. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The financial reports are accepted. Thank you. Next, we have the Facilities Development Report. It's tab D in our packets tonight. VP Beshi will discuss this with us. Welcome.
Good evening. I'd like to begin with the capital project update. Not able to move though. The Morris Lawrence and Great Lakes expansion projects are substantially complete. Just really wrapping up a couple loose ends with the Great Lakes expansion in terms of punch list items. 2 items that we're waiting for are fire doors required by the state fire marshal, and still waiting on some electrical parts for still no lab equipment for the electrical bus. But as you noticed in the tour today, UA is using that space. Obviously, the college is using ML, so those projects have come along and completed. Moving to the deferred maintenance update. As of the 31st of October, we have just under $900,000 of a remaining uncommitted balance in our deferred maintenance. You may notice this is actually slightly higher than the end of September because the first project closed out on the WTMC schematic design. We actually recovered or reimbursed half of that fee from WTMC. So that project was closed out at $26,000. We had been carrying $52,000. Largest current deferred maintenance project we have ongoing right now is the replacement of the floors for the LA building, and as we heard earlier, that work began in the stairwells this month, and then around the 20th of December, the first and third floor will be.
I've got a trustee question. Trustee DeVarty?
Yes.
Just a quick question on the Morris Lawrence renovation project. What's owner training?
So, lighting control systems, for example, I mean, when the systems that were put in place, so there's O&M manuals, so we get closeout documents that relate to all the new equipment that was put in. Probably the best example is the lighting control and training on programming that.
So who gets trained?
The facility staff.
Here, the on-site.
Here by the subcontractors that installed the equipment.
Great, thank you.
And then moving on to campus repairs and maintenance, as of the end of October, we have a remaining balance of just shy of $288,000 uncommitted in our emergency repair fund for campus repairs. Questions on, yes?
I just have a clarification question. This would be the last page for number 12 and 13. What is MLB Northwest Vestibule storefront replacement and campus lift station repairs? What are those? Those two items.
Can you reference it?
Number 12 on page 4.
Oh, okay.
And then what is the storefront replacement? Where is that here in this building?
So the Morris Lawrence building, the vestibule, which is straight out here, we had to replace one of the doors.
So you call that a storefront?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what was wrong with it?
I'd be honest,
You don't know?
I just know it needed to be replaced. I'm not sure if it was, the seal was broke or.
It's okay. And what are the campus lift station repairs?
Campus, which number?
The one under it,
13.
number 13.
Oh, campus lift stations.
Yes, where is that?
So that was, the sanitary system that we're talking about.
Oh,
There was
yes.
pump,
Oh,
there
is
was,
that what that is?
so there was repairs made to the discharge piping off of the pumps. So there were some repairs made to that pump system in the sanitary lift station.
Trustee Davis wasn't with us for the discussion earlier, so she isn't
Okay.
aware of that.
Oh, so there was a discussion. We have a sanitary lift station in the middle of Community Park. There was a conversation about, we've had the sanitary system, the pipe system is failed, and we have a plan short and long-term to replace that. But last month, we had repairs to the actual pipes and pump within the lift station down inside the lift station of the park.
Is this piping system extensive throughout the campus? Or is it just, mapped in one particular location where the replacement of this piping is not going to be something that will drain our budget, so to speak?
So the sanitary systems, and I don't have the map to put up here, but all of the buildings on campus flow to what we call a lift station right smack in the middle of Community Park. And then we pump it by means of a mechanical pumping system out to the street, out to East Huron, at which point it flows by gravity into a sanitary pipe system in the street that eventually flows to the Ann Arbor Water Treatment Plant for treatment.
Wastewater
Gotcha.
But the repair that you see to the lift station was with the discharge pipes from that pump.
He helped me, thank you.
Okay, that's
Have we
fine.
resolved that now?
Yeah, we're good.
Trustee Hatcher?
Yes.
Okay.
The little thing, I see two places, replacing drinking fountains.
Yes.
And are we replacing them with places where people can fill their bottle?
Yes, touch-free
they're all
bottle stations.
good,
We are, so
okay.
we're in the process, yeah, everything is going touch-free.
Great, thanks.
Let me take you back to deferred maintenance projects. Looks like a good year for parking lot 3.
Oh.
Item 20, we're doing lighting replacement, and then I see we're resurfacing parking lot 3. And my question is lighting replacement. Can you describe what we're doing with new lighting in the parking lot?
Yes, it's moving to an energy efficient LED. It is the black sky compliant fixtures that we've put, so it's just.
Good.
we're-
Trustee DeVarty and I are happy to know that that's still in the,
Oh, absolutely. No, we're
works, so.
moving across all the parking lots and eventually gonna replace them all. So we're just systematically moving through the entire campus parking areas and replacing all of our existing light fixtures.
thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Morton?
Do we still have the pickleball court?
I'm sorry?
Do we still have the pickleball court?
We don't have a pickleball.
I don't, a pickleball court.
Pickleball is, that's kind of a new phenomenon.
No, we
Yeah.
have a,
Wait.
outside the fitness center?
Yes,
That's not
different.
pickleball,
No.
that's,
We have a tennis court there.
that's
no,
some other kind of.
Paddle tennis, I believe.
Paddle tennis. it's
paddle
called.
tennis,
It's not
because I know
pickleball.
that it was proposed in the development of the design of the health and fitness center.
Hmm.
So that's why I thought about
It's
it.
not pickle.
Well,
Okay.
if he
Okay.
doesn't know about it, we probably don't have one.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, all right.
Diana plays pickleball.
It's a great sport.
No,
It
no.
is. It's a
Oh, you
great-
play?
I do.
Oh, hey. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Oh, yes,
Trustee McKnight Morton?
I'm sorry, I got derailed with my thoughts. I like this design. I like how you have it laid out, what's in progress, what's completed, and it's really aesthetically for me, I can see it clear. But, I just wanna know about the ones that are on the first page, 1 of 4, the complete ones. Is that gonna be a length of time, or do we have to wait until, springtime?
I'm sorry?
On page 1, you have, I'm sorry, not complete, but the one in progress. You have a lot in process. Are those gonna be completed this year in 22 or in next year, 23?
Most will be completed this year.
Really?
And a lot of what's on the page in deferred maintenance in process is wrapping up. For example, number 2, campus-wide fall protection, that is 98% complete, that project. So many of these that are in process are completed. The concrete, number 18, fiscal year concrete replacement, that's done.
Okay.
So some of them just need to, they stay for a month or two until all the billing and that is complete, and then it will move from an in-process to complete. But there's a number of projects in process that are actually completed.
Oh, great.
Um,
Great. Okay. Now, what about this flooring on number 22? Is that still being done? And then is it in the SC building? Number 22 is.
The flooring replacement?
In process, but I'm just wondering, has that been completed yet?
Your fiscal year 23 flooring replacement?
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, flooring replacement is similar to like restroom renovations. They roll over. We do them each year, and that's in design. That particular area is out for design. We haven't gotten the bids back or haven't even gone out for bids on it.
Maybe you should have put that on here,
Okay.
because I've been seeing floor replacement, but just trying to make sure that every time I see it, I'm thinking it's done, and it's not, so that's why I brought it up.
Trustee
you.
Trustee DeVarty.
I'm seeing in line 25, the EV charging design and replacement. And I'm curious, I know we have some EV charging in the parking structure. Do we have some in the lots as well?
We have, this is a twofold project that's lumped into one. So we're replacing 3 of our existing chargers in the parking structure. And that's, all we have currently on campus are the charging stations in the parking structure. We've got a design going concurrently to add 4 stations at the car barn. And that is to support potentially a program, an instructional program for EV charging and battery maintenance. There's also a larger scale campus-wide planning process to look at charging stations across campus. We have one plan right now which we would call decentralized. It's a series of charging stations throughout campus, and we're looking at, we want to compare that to what we're calling a charging farm or charging trail, where we would have a centralized bank of charging stations, and weigh the pros and cons between those 2 designs.
The reason I ask is I know I'm on the zoning board for the city of Ann Arbor, and the city is requiring any of these large developments that come in for new site plans to actually put in some EV ready, some EV installed and EV ready that they can upgrade at some later time, but they're wired and they could put in the future. Are we seeing any push from the governmental entities that we go to for permitting in that direction? I know we're in the township. We're in township.
Well, we're
Right.
split, aren't we?
2 townships, I think.
Yeah.
So are we seeing anything from those government entities that are gonna require when we do new parking structure things that we have some sort of EV capacity? Charging.
Almost similar to like a quantity of ADA parking spaces
Yes.
or something. No, not yet. I mean, we have not seen it in any of our recent trips to the planning. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, for every parking lot you build or X amount of spaces you add, there should be a percentage of EV charging stations, just like there is for handicap or,
Right.
but.
Perhaps it's subject to a site plan approval. It kicks in at that level, Dave?
Yeah, in Ann Arbor, that's what they do. If there's a site plan required for a development, they're actually requiring a pretty onerous implementation. And we've had a number of developers come and ask for variances on that, on the EV charging. And when I see this on here, it's maybe something we want to give as a board some forethought to, what might be, or as a staff, forward-looking, what might be a good way to go to help meet the need for electric vehicle charging.
Well, if it's codified by the city, maybe you could provide some of that for their review.
I could, yeah. I mean, I personally think that what the city of Ann Arbor requires is pretty much too onerous. And because the zoning board has been giving some variances, I think they're gonna scale that back a little bit.
Well, you can be our board expert on these matters.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for members of the Board of Trustees to hold forth on issues that they want to speak to. Are there any takers? Trustee Hatcher.
I'd just like to speak in favor of some sort of ecological study of the spill. Does EPA require something? Do we know what
VP
damage?
Beshi, could you come back to field this question
Sorry.
for us? President Blanca, would you like to?
No, he knows the answer. Go ahead.
The ecology of the spill and what damage it may have done to our plants and grass and birds and whatever,
An ecological census of some sort.
As a result of
the spill.
the spills.
Sorry.
So, as I said, in both incidences, in both cases where we had the spill, we had to report a reported discharge to Eagle. As a requirement of that, within 24 hours, we had to notify the health department and notify the newspaper. The health department required two water, in both cases, they required 2 water samples. So, our stormwater all over campus eventually feeds into a retention pond right off of Lot 6, which is next to Grendermeyer. That flows west into a second retention pond before it discharges into wetlands and travels about 1,300 feet before it makes its way into the creek in the Huron River. So when our results that we got back this Monday, yep.
I was just gonna share the information you shared with me today.
Okay.
So-
Is that what you're looking for, Ruth?
Well, yes, that's what he's showing
Okay.
me for the first time.
Well, yeah, we were gonna,
So do you want to, we did take lab results and they came back, is that,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the lab results.
Yes.
They're
Right.
okay, or they're?
so to put things in perspective, I
Just
mean,
see it for the first time.
the highest concentration of E. coli, so the health department was concerned and wanted us to measure specifically for E. coli. The concentration at the inlet was 86 parts per 100 milliliters.
Yeah.
100 milliliters is the unit of sampling they do for E. coli.
Yeah,
To put this in perspective, a public beach would close for swimming if the levels exceeded 88 parts per 100 million. So it's probably important to note that, I mean, and not to minimize the problem we had with the leaks, but E. coli happens naturally in the environment. On any given day, it's possible that the levels of E. coli in the ML retention pond could be high just because of the population of geese that like to hang out in that area. So it occurs naturally in the environment. But to put things in perspective, our test results that came back this week were favorable, the health department, but to try to put it in perspective, if this was a public beach for swimming, we would not have been asked to close down based
I
on,
see. It's 86, we just made it.
yeah. I mean, if that helps put it into perspective. I'm not trying to minimize by any means what happened, but the levels were well within, well, I wouldn't say, were within a safe range.
Those are good data, thank you.
Okay,
So
thank you.
You can have that if you want.
Any other trustee comments, questions? Trustee Angela Davis.
I'm back, and I'm happy to spend another 6 years with you guys.
Yay.
I mean, I'm serious about that. I really enjoyed my first term, and I'm happy that Bill Milliken and I have weathered the election results, and we come through shining bright, and we're going to shed that light on to the rest of our term. So thank you so much, you and everyone else.
It's nice to know we had every one of their votes, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, I have one more question.
Trustee Hatcher.
This is, I think, for Vanessa. You know, we used to get a yearly thing of what kinds,
Events.
not events, but what the agenda reports would be for each month. Like it would say November, we're gonna get the student profile.
Right.
Have we gotten that recently? Could we
No,
get that
not recently.
someday?
I can get it.
Like January or something?
Yeah, in January.
Yeah, okay.
Any
Thank
other,
you.
any other comments? Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say something briefly about my ACCT trip to New York. for the yearly conference there. And it was interesting. Again, there was so many things, topics and seminars, all at the same time, every day. So it was really hard to pick and choose what you wanted to hear or listen, or you just pop in and pop out. They don't give out handouts like they used to. They say you can get it online. Well, I've been online and I haven't seen any of their presentations yet. So, but in any case, I'm gonna do the best I can with my brief report. I sat in for a length of time with which is something I like to do anyway, the policy update of Washington. And it was, to put it in a nutshell, they talked about a lot of the legislative update, what the Senate and the legislators are doing. There's a lot of bipartisan going on right now with them. Well, at that time they were, I don't know about now, but they talked about the Education Chips and Science Act that passed this summer, I guess. I don't know.
Christina.
What's your title? Whatever your title is, Linda Blakey.
Provost.
Provost, yeah. I don't know if you've heard about that, but that was a big thing that they discussed in depth about. Another thing is they're trying to make the Pell Grant non-taxable, and that is a big item right now. And I think that's something that financial aid and everybody else is involved with that understand. If you start getting any information on that non-taxable Pell, and I think it's still being held up in the legislative part. And then they talked about regulatory bills that needs to be taken care of. There's a lot of bills that have not been, before the election, have not been passed, not even discussed yet. So it's really kind of like stabbing in the dark. They talked a lot, had hundreds of slides, but it's really a lot to retain, and I was trying to take notes, and then they were talking so fast it's hard to take notes. So in any case, it was good. One of the things that I did enjoy was being outside of the hotel on Broadway, I think that is, and seeing all the people. I forgot what it's like to be in New York on Broadway, and the type of people you see, what you don't see here. And it was kind of a shock to my eyes of some of their dress.
Creative.
Very creative. So anyway, that's my report. Thank you. And I want to say thank you for letting me go.
Thank you for your report.
Yeah.
President Blanca, President's remarks?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to Chair Milliken and Vice Chair Angela Davis on your reelection.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you.
we are looking forward to your continuation and leadership on the board. So, thank you. Veterans Day was quite a celebration here on campus. I'd like to thank Trustee Hetzer for attending. We began the day at 7 a.m. and Trustee Hetzer was there with the flag with the flag raising. That's a tough one, but yes, we were. And we had our annual event in the Veterans Center. It included several moving speakers. Our own Vice President Veteran Brandon Tucker spoke, and the president of our Student Veterans of America Club. She was amazing. Rebecca Spencer also spoke, and she served both in the United States Army and in the Army National Guard. And you know what? When you go out there, you know our videos are working. Yeah, and you can see the event out there. It was great to see Lori and Tim Wadhams. They came,
good.
and it was great because they supported the Wadhams Veterans Center. And we are once again a gold level veteran family, friendly campus. So, thank you. I'd like to thank Linda Blakey and her whole department, student activities, everything they do to make this day possible. Economic Club is on Thursday, which should be very good. We'll have Tim Skubik here. And now, I have a short, I promise you, short video to show you about a new fantastic partnership that we have started with Zoller. And Zoller is a premier maker of tool pre-setting and measuring systems, and they will now be offering a formal application engineer apprenticeship program with our college, thanks to Vice President Tucker and experiential learning manager Kirsten Rue for making this collaboration happen.
Washtenaw Community College is in our backyard, and we feel committed to pay back to the community and develop a certification program to support Zoller services and to help young talent to have an easier entry into the professional world. The students will go to Washtenaw Community College for 2 days, learn to be a setup technician. 3 days in a week, they're going to be at Zoller, here local in Ann Arbor, to learn all about our measurement equipment. That means calibrations, certifications, maintenance. Not only that, but learn also all the other processes within the company to get a bigger view of what it means to calibrate and work with our machines.
The apprenticeship with Zoller prepared me for my future not only by letting me explore like the hands-on side of inspection and presetting, but also the history behind presetting and inspection and why it's important for cutting tools to be pre-qualified before going in the CNC machine.
The company is actually providing and paying for the educational portion, paying also while the students are in school a stipend and an hourly wage while they are the 3 days at the company.
One of the main points of the Zoller apprenticeship is hands-on training. So you will learn an entire scope of different things, from the hands-on installation and calibrations as well as maintenance from our machines, as well as what it's like to be in the after-sales department, order processing for spare parts. And you're treated as a coworker, which as a student or an apprentice is not very common in some other companies, but with Zoller, you have your own desk and your coworkers come and talk to you like any other person.
The great opportunity here is that we are so close by. We are at the Research Park Drive at the South State Street. That's just a 10-minute drive from Washtenaw Community. We have opportunities right now to still, at an early stage of the school year, to join the certification program. But of course, we are looking for the next year's fall also. We encourage to go through local school advisors, get our contacts also, or our webpage.
That's exciting. Very good. Thank you, Brandon. Very well done.
Now, isn't there the
Yes.
age group? The age group?
The thing that's different about a Verbo vacation.
Oh,
Questions? Who's got a comment? What did I miss?
The age group, open to all ages, or is it a specific age group?
Open to all ages. And we're actually having an apprenticeship welcome event tomorrow morning with Zoller, three other employees.
Brandon, do you want to come to the microphone? We don't want to miss a word of this.
We're actually having an apprenticeship welcome breakfast in the morning with 4 employers, including Zoller, a number of our Michigan work partners across the county, and high school counselors to showcase the opportunity to seniors that are going to be graduating, with the goal of them hopefully enrolling here at WCC and being a part of the apprenticeship. So I think there's around 40 people scheduled to be here tomorrow. So it's an exciting time for apprenticeships.
Here at the ML building?
It is, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Diana?
So, how many students are they taking at one time?
So Zoller actually is committed to start a cohort in January, which would be, of course, ahead of the people who we're trying to recruit tomorrow, of 10 students. So they'll have cohorts of 10 that they're going to fully pay and pay for their tuition. And the goal is to bring the interest with the high school students so that they hopefully can replicate that for fall semester.
So are they really targeting high school students or the ones that get ready to graduate more so than the adults?
The 10 slots are more than likely going to be adults because those people they're recruiting now to try to have them start in January. But they have a really big interest in giving back to the local community, German company, but they have a location here that they have, I think, 7 or 8 high school counselors that they're trying to get the word out so that they can be their ambassadors at their respective high schools.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's great.
Good. President Blanca, back to you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
And to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda, we're doing some old business. It's tab E, and it's, as you'll see on tab E, it is 2022 Emeritus Staff Recipients. Any discussion here? Trustee Hatcher?
I'd just like to thank a few people, but whose names I recognize. There's several faculty. There are lots of memories represented in these names for me. I'm not sure that we can do assessment without Joy Garrett or have graduation without Lily. So I'd like to thank them particularly for that service, and also to wish Donna Wasserman well. She's not well, and she has a new grandson that's keeping her joyful. But what a wonderful instructor, and we want to wish her well particularly. Thanks.
Well, we appreciate your institutional memory. Thank you. Any other comments? Trustee
I just
McKnight
wanna-
Norton?
Yeah, I just want to give out recognition to everyone, but particularly Mark, how do you pronounce his last name? Anyway, he's been here 37 years.
Saint, not Saint.
Oh, Saint, yeah, Mark Saint. And Ross Strayer, 32 years, Kathy Butcher, 33, and it goes on and on. But I think it's very important to recognize these people for their service and how they felt that the school did them okay, because otherwise it wouldn't have stayed. Thank you.
Well said.
I'd also like to thank Saint because he got me lots of keys that I wasn't supposed to have. So I appreciate him very much.
I move that be stricken from the
Yeah,
record. Moving on to new business, tab F. We have before us an action item, approval of full-time and adjunct faculty employee salary increases. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approves a 1% salary increase or $500 salary increase, whichever is greater, for each full-time college employee and adjunct faculty member on the payroll as of December 1, 2022. The increase will assist the college in retaining current employees and attracting qualified new employees to fill vital position openings. Salary increases are subject to appropriate union participation where applicable and will be effective December 1, 2022. And further, the Board of Trustees, with this motion, authorizes the administration to establish appropriate specific criteria for salary increase eligibility and to take any other action necessary to grant the increases. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
And I need support from Trustee Hatcher. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the matter?
I've got a
Trustee
question.
Duarte?
Since this was not before the board previously, do we need a vote to move it to immediate action?
No. Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Oh, excuse me,
Aye.
Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton.
Yes.
The motion stands approved. Thank you. Next, we have bypass sanitary drain. It's also an action item. And it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve contract with Rain for Rent in the amount not to exceed $111,663 to install a bypass sanitary drain line until a permanent underground system can be installed. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
And I have support. Is there any discussion on the matter? Trustee DeVarty?
I'd like to commend the staff for bringing this to us and jumping on this immediately in response to, just so the public and everybody knows, an aging sanitary sewer setup that we have that goes back to the founding of the college and the first building. And it's something we need to do, and I wholeheartedly support what's before us now is a temporary solution, but we have to engineer and implement a permanent solution, and I see that coming before us in the future. But I want to really commend the staff for bringing this to us so we could jump on it as quickly as it became apparent what we need to do.
Well, the scope of work to complete this is considerable. VP Beshi and his staff are working on that, and I think next month we'll probably hear more, but thank you for helping to get us there. Any other discussion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you very much. And unless you'd like to go on this evening, I'm ready to call for a motion to
I
adjourn.
move for adjournment.
And support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.